really do.
Imagine being so famous that one song follows you for the rest of your life. Not just for years, for decades. Every audience wants to hear it. Every interview mentions it. Every new generation discovers it all over again. For Judy Garland, that song was Over the Rainbow, but her story was far larger and far more complicated than a single performance. Born Frances Ethel Gumm in Minnesota in 1922, Judy Garland stepped onto a stage before most children had even started school. Performing wasn't simply part of her life, it was her life. Alongside her sisters, she entertained audiences in vaudeville theaters as a child. Before long, Hollywood noticed the young performer with the extraordinary voice. MGM signed her while she was still a teenager. Then, in 1939, everything changed. Garland starred as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. The movie wasn't an instant box office phenomenon at first, but over time, it became one of the most beloved films ever made, and Judy Garland became inseparable from it. Millions of people saw themselves in Dorothy, a young girl searching for belonging and trying to find her way home. What made Garland special wasn't just her voice, it was vulnerability. Even at a young age, she had a way of making emotions feel genuine. This wasn't merely movie stardom, it was connection. Audiences believed her. Success continued throughout the 1940s and 1950s. She starred in musicals, recorded hit songs, and became one of the entertainment industry's biggest names. Yet behind the scenes, life was rarely simple. The pressures of Hollywood during that era were intense, especially for young performers. Studio schedules were exhausting, expectations were relentless. Over time, Garland struggled with personal and professional challenges that often played out in public view. Still, she kept returning to the stage, again and again. One of the most remarkable chapters of her career came in 1961 with her legendary concert at Carnegie Hall. Many critics still consider it one of the greatest live performances in entertainment history. And honestly, that detail still surprises me. By that point, Garland had already endured years of setbacks, health struggles, and career uncertainty. Yet she delivered what many people regard as the defining performance of her life. There's something fascinating about that. Sometimes an artist's greatest triumph arrives long after people have started doubting them. A lesser-known fact about Judy Garland is that her famous stage name wasn't the one she was born with. The name Judy Garland was created as part of her transformation into a Hollywood star. I always found that a little strange. Imagine becoming so famous that even the name the world knows isn't the one you started with. By the late 1960s, however, years of demanding work and personal struggles had taken a toll. Garland continued performing and remained deeply loved by audiences, but life had become increasingly difficult. Then came the news that stunned fans around the world. On June 22, 1969, Judy Garland was found dead in London at the age of 47. The cause of death was determined to be an accidental overdose of barbiturates. The reaction was immediate. Crowds gathered, newspapers filled with tributes, fellow entertainers expressed their grief. For many people, it felt as though they had lost someone they had grown up with. What makes Judy Garland's story so enduring isn't simply that she was talented. Hollywood has produced many talented performers. Garland represented something different. She showed audiences both brilliance and vulnerability, strength and struggle, success and uncertainty. Those contradictions made her feel human. Even today, her influence can be seen throughout music, film, and popular culture. Countless performers have cited her as an inspiration. New generations continue discovering her work through classic films and recordings. And perhaps that's why her story remains so compelling, not because she seemed larger than life, because despite all the fame, she never stopped feeling real. When you think of Judy Garland, what comes to mind first? The voice, the films, or the resilience she showed throughout a career filled with extraordinary highs and difficult challenges? What if a comedian became so influential that one of his routines ended up helping shape a major free speech case in the United States? That wasn't a politician, it wasn't a lawyer, it was George Carlin, a man who built an extraordinary career by questioning the rules that everyone else seemed willing to accept. George Carlin was born in New York City in 1937 and grew up in a working-class neighborhood of Manhattan. His childhood wasn't particularly easy. His father left the family when George was young, and much of his upbringing fell to his mother. School and authority figures never seemed to be a perfect fit for him. In fact, Carlin was expelled from school more than once. That rebellious streak would eventually become one of his defining characteristics. Before comedy took over his life, he briefly served in the United States Air Force. Yet even there, discipline wasn't exactly his strong suit. A military supervisor once described him as an unproductive airman. And honestly, that detail still surprises me. It's difficult to imagine that the man who would later become one of the most influential comedians in America was once viewed as someone unlikely to accomplish much at all. By the 1960s, Carlin was building a career as a stand-up comedian. At first, he looked fairly conventional: suit and tie, clean-cut appearance, television-friendly material, but something changed. As the culture shifted during the late 1960s and early 1970s, Carlin reinvented himself. The short hair disappeared, the beard appeared, so did a much sharper style of comedy. Instead of simply trying to make audiences laugh, he started challenging them. Language, politics, religion, consumer culture, nothing was off limits. His most famous routine, involving a list of words that were considered unacceptable on American broadcast television, became a cultural flashpoint. The controversy eventually contributed to a landmark Supreme Court case involving broadcasting standards and free speech. Think about that for a moment. How many comedians can say their material became part of legal history? This wasn't just entertainment, it was influence. Carlin helped push conversations about censorship, language, and the limits of public expression. Whether people agreed with him or not, they paid attention. And that may have been his greatest skill, making people think. Over the following decades, he released best-selling comedy albums, HBO specials, books, and live performances. New generations kept discovering his work. One lesser-known detail is that Carlin was an obsessive note-taker. He constantly wrote down observations, ideas, phrases, and random thoughts. Boxes filled with handwritten material accumulated throughout his career. I always found that fascinating. His performances often sounded spontaneous, but behind the scenes there was an enormous amount of writing and refinement. The sharp observations audiences heard on stage were usually the result of careful work. As he grew older, Carlin became less interested in traditional punchlines and more interested in social commentary. Some fans saw him as a comedian. Others saw him as a philosopher disguised as a comedian. Either way, his voice became instantly recognizable. Then, in June 2008, that voice fell silent. On June 22, 2008, George Carlin died in California at the age of 71. The cause of death was heart failure. He had experienced several heart-related health issues throughout his life. The news prompted tributes from comedians across the world. Many described him as one of the most important figures in stand-up comedy history, not necessarily because he was the funniest, although many thought he was, but because he expanded what comedy could do. He proved that stand-up could be more than jokes. It could challenge assumptions. It could criticize power. It could force audiences to look at familiar things from a completely different angle. Today, countless comedians continue to draw inspiration from his work. His routines are still discussed. His observations are still quoted. His influence can be found in comedy clubs, podcasts, television specials, and stages around the world. George Carlin spent decades asking uncomfortable questions and refusing easy answers. And perhaps that's why people continue returning to his work. Not because he told audiences what to think, because he encouraged them to think for themselves. When you look back at George Carlin's career, what stands out more, the comedy itself, or the way he challenged people to question ideas they had always taken for granted? Imagine being told that you weren't good enough to become a movie star, too thin, not handsome enough, not the right look for Hollywood. Now imagine hearing that and then spending the next several decades changing the way dance is filmed forever. That was Fred Astaire. And in many ways, his story is about proving expectations wrong. Born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1899, Fred Astaire entered show business so early that he barely remembered life outside of it. As a child, he performed alongside his sister Adele Astaire. Together, they became a successful dance act on the vaudeville circuit and later on Broadway. For years, the siblings were inseparable professionally. Many theater critics actually considered Adele the bigger star. That's one of the most surprising details about Astaire's career. Today, people often view him as the ultimate dance icon. Yet, during the early years, some observers thought his sister was the more remarkable performer. And honestly, that detail still surprises me. History has a funny way of reshaping reputations. When Adele retired from performing after marriage, Fred faced a challenge. For the first time, he had to build a career on his own. Fortunately for audiences, he did exactly that. Hollywood arrived at the perfect moment. The film industry was embracing musicals, and Astaire brought something audiences had rarely seen before: grace, precision, effortless movement. Watching him dance often looked impossible, not because he appeared athletic, because he made difficult choreography seem completely natural. The partnership that defined much of his career began in the 1930s with actress and dancer Ginger Rogers. Together, they appeared in a string of enormously successful musical films. Audiences couldn't get enough of them. Their chemistry felt genuine, their routines felt magical. Yet what made Astaire truly influential happened behind the camera as much as in front of it. Before Astaire, dance sequences in movies were often filmed with constant cuts and complicated camera tricks. He disliked that approach. Astaire wanted viewers to actually see the dancing. As a result, many of his routines were filmed with longer takes and wider shots. That may sound like a technical detail. It wasn't. This wasn't just entertainment. It was influence. His approach changed how dance could be presented on screen and inspired generations of performers, choreographers, and filmmakers. People such as Gene Kelly, Michael Jackson, and countless others admired his work. The impact stretched far beyond his own era. As the decades passed, Astaire continued working long after many of his contemporaries retired. He appeared in films, television specials, and stage productions. Remarkably, he remained active well into later life. I always found that fascinating. Some performers become trapped by nostalgia. Astaire seemed comfortable continuing to evolve. Even when styles changed, audiences still wanted to watch him move. Away from the spotlight, he was known for being disciplined and meticulous. Stories from colleagues often described endless rehearsals before major performances. The effortless appearance audiences saw on screen required enormous effort behind the scenes. That's something worth remembering. The smooth elegance wasn't accidental, it was earned. By the 1980s, Fred Astaire had become one of the last living symbols of Hollywood's classic musical era. His name had become almost synonymous with dance itself. Then, on June 22, 1987, Fred Astaire died at the age of 88. The cause of death was pneumonia. Tributes poured in from around the world. Actors, dancers, musicians, and filmmakers reflected on a career that had influenced nearly every corner of entertainment. For many people, it felt like the end of a remarkable chapter in film history. Yet Astaire's importance isn't measured only by awards or famous performances. It's measured by imitation. Generations of performers studied him, copied him, learned from him, and in some cases built entire careers inspired by what they saw. That may be the clearest sign of cultural impact. Long after audiences stopped attending the movie palaces of the 1930s, Fred Astaire's work continued teaching new artists what movement on screen could look like. Few performers have managed that, fewer still have done it with such elegance. When you watch Fred Astaire today, what stands out most? The technical brilliance, the effortless style, or the fact that someone once claimed he wasn't destined for Hollywood success at all?